The Zephyrian High Command had spent 3 rotations perfecting their invasion strategy. Every calculation, every psychological profile, every terror protocol had been meticulously crafted based on their observations of lesser species throughout the galaxy. Fear was universal, or so they believed. Admiral Kethavar adjusted his ceremonial battle armor as he reviewed the final briefing. The blue-green world spinning below their massive dreadnought looked peaceful, almost primitive. Their intelligence suggested the inhabitants called themselves humans and had barely achieved interstellar awareness. The fear induction phase begins in 10 time units, announced Sub-Commander Vextai, her tentacles dancing across the control matrix. All terror ships are in position. Kethavar nodded approvingly. The Zephyrians had conquered 47 worlds using the same methodology. Project Massive, intimidating vessels into a planet's atmosphere, broadcast terrifying imagery directly into the inhabitants' minds, then wait for the inevitable surrender. It had never failed. The first phase commenced precisely on schedule. Hundreds of kilometer-long warships descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic storm clouds, their hulls pulsing with ominous red light. The ships positioned themselves over major population centers, New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, casting vast shadows that plunged millions into artificial twilight. Beginning psychological assault, reported Vextai. Across Earth's networks, the Zephyrian terrorcasters began their work. Holographic projections materialized in city squares, towering nightmarish creatures with razor-sharp claws and burning eyes. The images were accompanied by a low-frequency drone designed to trigger primal fear responses in most carbon-based life forms. Kethavar watched the monitoring screens, expecting to see humans fleeing in panic, their governments desperately attempting to establish communication channels for surrender negotiations. Instead, the readings showed something unprecedented. Admiral, Vextai's voice carried a note of confusion. The biometric scanners are detecting unusual responses. On the screens, humans had indeed stopped their daily activities. They were gathering in the streets, looking up at the massive alien vessels. But instead of terror, the Zephyrians detected elevated levels of dopamine and endorphins. Instead of screams, their audio receptors picked up a strange rhythmic sound. Laughter. "Replay that audio," Kethavar commanded, his 4 eyes narrowing. The bridge speakers crackled with the sound of human mirth. In New York's Times Square, a crowd had formed beneath the primary terror vessel. Someone had set up what appeared to be a portable sound system. "Oh my God, it's like Independence Day," shouted one human, pointing excitedly at the ship, but with better special effects. "I told you guys disclosure was coming in 2025. Another called out, triggering more laughter from the crowd. A human with colorful hair was live streaming to millions. "Okay, alien overlords, you get points for dramatic entrance, but your ship design is giving me serious 90s sci-fi vibes. Did you hire the same guy who did the Star Destroyer models?" The comments flooding her stream were equally bewildering to the Zephyrian observers. Alien invasion bingo. Ominous ships, red lights, scary holograms. Plot twist. They're here to talk to us about our car's extended warranty. 1010 would be abducted by these guys. Kethavar's mandibles clicked in agitation. Increased terror protocol intensity. Deploy the Harbinger illusions. The nightmare projections shifted, becoming more grotesque and threatening. Massive holographic monsters began attacking buildings with claws the size of aircraft. The Zephyrians pumped more fear-inducing frequencies into the atmosphere. The humans' response was immediate. More laughter. "Dude, they've got a whole horror movie thing going," observed a teenager in London filming everything on his phone. "It's like a free haunted house experience but citywide." In Tokyo, a group of humans had started a synchronized dance beneath one of the terror ships, their movements perfectly timed to the alien drone frequency. The video went viral within minutes, spawning copycat dances across the globe. "Admiral," Vextai reported, her voice strained. "Their global communications network is... They're creating something called memes about us." Kethavar examined the data stream in horror. Humans were taking images of the Zephyrian terror ships and adding text. "Me arriving to Monday morning meetings." When you try to intimidate humans but they're into that, local aliens discover Earth's secret weapon. Weaponized cringe humor. Within hours, their alien invasion was trending globally, but not in the way the Zephyrians had anticipated. Humans were rating the invasion like a movie, comparing it to their entertainment media, and creating art inspired by the ship's designs. A news anchor in Mumbai delivered her report with barely contained giggles. The aliens appear to be attempting some form of psychological warfare, but honestly, after 2020 through 2024, giant scary spaceships feel almost quaint. We've reached out to the visitors for comment, but they seem camera shy. This is impossible, Kethvar muttered, reviewing the psychological profiles. Every species experiences fear when confronted with superior force. It's a fundamental survival instinct. Perhaps, suggested Vextai cautiously. Humans have transcended such basic responses. They had their answer moments later when a human in Australia held up a handmade sign beneath their terror ship. Welcome to Earth. Sorry about the Wi-Fi password. It's just password 123. Another human had set up a lemonade stand with a sign reading, Alien Invasion Refreshments, Earth's Finest H2O, 5 credits or whatever space money you have. The breakthrough came when the humans began attempting direct communication. Not through their governments or military, those institutions were still scrambling to formulate responses, but through social media, projected signs, and even synchronized light displays. One message spelled out in bright letters across a football stadium read, "We know you can read this. Your ship designs are actually pretty cool. Want to grab coffee and talk about it?" Kethvar stared at the message for a long moment. In 47 previous conquests, no species had ever complimented their ship designs during an active invasion. "Admiral," came another report, they're offering us food. Multiple locations are setting up what they call welcome parties. The turning point came when a small group of humans in California managed to project their own hologram. A crude but unmistakably friendly image of humans and Zephyrians shaking hands, accompanied by the message, "First contact protocols. Step 1, don't panic. Step 2, make friends. Step 3, pizza." Kethvar realized his fleet faced something entirely unprecedented, a species that had weaponized their own social nature. Instead of cowering before superior technology, humans had instinctively turned the invasion into a cultural exchange opportunity. "Subcommander," he said finally, "send a communication to the surface. It appears we need to learn about something called pizza." As the Zephyrian ships began descending for actual first contact rather than conquest, Kethvar reflected on the day's events. The humans had done something no species had ever accomplished. They had made the mighty Zephyrian Empire curious rather than feared. And somehow, that felt like the beginning of something far more interesting than another conquest. The invasion had failed spectacularly, not because of superior weapons or defenses, but because humanity had responded to attempted intimidation with invitation. They had transformed terror into tourism, fear into friendship, and conquest into comedy. Later, Zephyrian military academies would study the Earth incident as a cautionary tale about the dangers of assuming universal behavioral patterns. They would learn that while fear might be a common response to the unknown, some species, particularly humans, had evolved something far more powerful, the ability to find humor in absolutely anything, even alien invasion. The final lesson of the failed Earth conquest became a cornerstone of Zephyrian diplomatic philosophy. When dealing with humans, bring snacks and a sense of humor. Leave the terror weapons at home.